For everybody who's tuned into PT World, you guys are definitely watching World this morning alongside the very amazing, the very stunning Shahzad Khan and Shizza Hashmi. Hello Shizza, how are you today?
I'm absolutely great. How are you? Feels like you had a lot of coffee early in the morning.
Well, I definitely had to take a lot of coffee because I'm thankful to Allah Almighty for giving me this much amount of work, and I never knew that, you know, कि दुआएं इतनी जल्दी कबूल होती हैं. So every morning, whenever I used to, you know, offer my prayers as well, so the only thing I would ask from Allah was that, you know, please make me so busy in work that I couldn't actually think of anything else in the world.
Wow.
And this has happened to me lately, alhamdulillah. I'm very thankful to Allah Almighty, but there's only one thing. Allah Pak thodi si neend bhi de de, thodi si, you know, so, you know, ladies and gentlemen, there's a point in your life, and I think that everybody might have encountered that point in their life as well, that, you know, that there's a time when you have a lot of amount of work, and then eventually you start to give up on that work as well, that, you know, and that is because of the fact that everybody wants to be in their comfort zone. Right. And this is the point, if you understand that you can actually go to the next level or you can stay wherever you are in life. So if you want to actually dedicate yourself, make sure to give up on your Z's. We are in that age frame as well where we can still manage. But if you'll probably do it, put in the hard work, and you will see yourself somewhere. I mean, I imagine myself getting a Sitara Imtiaz. What about you?
Wow, yeah. That's quite a goal. But I do sort of agree with you. I've been always wanting to be absolutely busy so that I don't have to even time to think about anything else. And to be honest, I've been busy, but sadly with my studies, and that is one of the worst decisions of my life.
No, you know,
this is not for the students out there. Do not.
You know, but Shizza, you know, there's one thing. You know, while even I was studying, I was working at myself as well at that time, and you know, it gets very difficult at times to go to the classes, and then teachers are like, oh, your attendance won't be marked, and you know, there are problems. But eventually, you know, when you're going to have that degree, you know, the confidence you're going to get, and then you will actually cherish these moments of being a student. And, you know, being a student at this particular age, I think is wonderful itself.
Yeah, I don't see that happening, me cherishing these moments, pretty sure. But other than that, you know, Shahzad, just before the show, you were telling me of these typhoid cases in Islamabad. So
exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know, there were 4 reported cases of typhoid over here recently in Islamabad as well. So, there might be, I think, people who have been eating outside or probably from the streets. Please make sure to avoid that as well, because typhoid, I think, is a very serious disease. It hurts a lot.
Right.
And we do not really want people to be in pain. So it is our job, and you know, since I get to know this information, so I thought that I'll share it with you guys as well. Get yourself tested as well if you eat a lot outside as well. Please make sure to stay safe, stay healthy. It is very essential. And for all the authorities out there, I think I'm going to request you to please make sure that all of these street vendors selling ande wala burger or whatever it is, you know, that whether they are on those hygienic conditions or not, because if they're not, they need to be shut down as well. People cannot fall ill. And God forbid, I think that typhoid can actually be lethal as well. So please make sure to look after and drink clean water.
Well, that's absolutely great to start with, because it's, you know, it's very good to share the information that that can benefit anyone out there. So ladies and gentlemen, what are we talking about today? Of course, I always say that PTV loves to inform and educate you, and that is what we're doing again.
Exactly.
We will be talking about Pakistan-Canada bilateral relations, whatever we can do to improve these relations in terms of, you know, trade, investment, and even tourism, what we can learn from Canada, and how people living inside Canada, Pakistani people living over there, are actually making a great name for Pakistan.
Exactly, indeed. And then at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, talking about Canada, I think it's the second home for Pakistanis as well. A lot of Pakistanis live over there. More than 5,000 to 10,000 Pakistanis are actually, you know, this is some kind of information which I got to know from the Census Report of Canada from 2016 as well, that more than 4,600 Pakistani born people are actually living over there. So from moving on to the other generation, the number might increase, but they might call themselves Canadians. So, you know, it is a different story. But this, one of the ladies who's actually over here in the studios with us has actually been with the parliamentarians of the Canada as well. She's been working a lot, and, you know, she's been working for all those people, all those Pakistanis who reside within the Canada, and then they have a few problems as well. So I think that we definitely need to highlight the actions of such people as well, because she's a social activist herself. She doesn't get paid for such a job. But then by the end of the day, you know, there comes a point in your life when you want to do something for the society. What do you want to do?
Okay, well, that is a huge question. I want to do something on the lines of, you know, humanitarian crisis. Particularly, I'm very much moved by the refugee crisis. So inshallah, in the future, I shall be working on that. You know, it can be in terms of Pakistan or anywhere in the world, because after all, I mean, they are humans, right?
Wow, that's just great. So ladies and gentlemen, let's get the conversation started with two of our very amazing, very talented, very hardworking women from Canada, all the way in Pakistan, in our studios today, early in the morning. On my right-hand side, we have been joined by somebody who's actually working for the tourism industry quite a lot as well, bringing in people from Canada to see the real Pakistan. She just got back from Skardu. She's an entrepreneur herself. She's none other than Miss Humaira Khan. Hello, assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Hello and walaikum assalam. I see the energy here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah.
And you know, one more amazing thing about Humaira, that she is actually a host on a local channel in Canada as well.
Yes.
Wow, that's great.
Canada one.
You know, I can feel the competition already, but it's all right. Yeah, keeping it low.
I'm in the hot seat now.
Yeah, we're keeping it low, ladies and gentlemen. And you know, the lady which I was talking about earlier, that she's been over here on the show too as well. And she's that social activist who's been putting in a lot of effort for people who've actually traveled from Pakistan to Canada, and she's actually helped them settle over there as well.
Wow.
And I think that this is a big deal, because people these days, even if you go to Karachi, they do not have time for people over there.
To help them out, right?
Because the life is very busy. So such is the life anywhere other than Pakistan, you know, and you got to believe me, because people do not have other people to work for them in their houses, laundry, cooking, whatnot. But even other than that, you know, when you go to their offices, they actually have to be on time, and they have to manage all the work by themselves as well. So great respect to this lady. She's a social activist, as I said. She's none other than Miss Ruby Malik. Hello, assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Walaikum assalam. It's nice to be back on your show.
Thank you very much for saying that as well. It's wonderful to have you back. But there's one question which I really need to ask, and that is that it's a long flight. It's like more than 18 or 20 hours. How do you guys manage to come back and then go back as well? You know, it's tiring.
It's the pyar of Pakistan that
Exactly.
Exactly. It pulls us. 18 hours is nothing.
It's
So
nothing,
the time is like, we look forward to this trip. So
All right, very nice.
exactly.
So the last time when you were here on the show, you told us about you meeting a lot of parliamentarians back in Canada as well, and settling down a lot of people who've actually had issues and whatnot. So from that point onwards, what kind of endeavors have you been involved in?
So as you said, lots of issues are faced by the people who are trying to settle. Either they are refugees, so they have an extra set of barriers when they are coming in the society, starting from language to all the way basic life skills, because it's a big culture shock coming from a refugee camp. So I actually have had the advantage of working on both sides. So I used to be part of the non-profit organizations that used to help settle refugees, government-assisted ones as well as privately sponsored and so on. And then I've been working with the federal government, which one of my roles initially was with the Department of Citizenship Immigration, which was in settlement of refugees. So I've seen both sides, and that gives me a little bit of insight in how to help. So we've done lots of community work in having newcomers come to a welcome center, having established a life skills program that helps them get day-to-day things under control and so on. And also, as you're saying, it's hard time-wise to give, so we have a wide network of volunteers who have different competencies, because these are all like-minded, passionate people who are passionate about helping newcomers, especially refugees. I think volunteering is the main key that's driving us in helping these people settle well, because then we can have them they feel like there's a family out there, they're not alone, and that's also a peace of mind and comfort that's needed.
That is absolutely amazing and inspiring work that you're doing, and we're so proud of that. But moving on to you, Ms. Humaira, you were a student when you started being a tourist, and that was actually your job as well, right?
Actually,
tour guide, wow. And you've been doing this ever since, and now you are convincing the Canadians to come to Pakistan and witness all this amazing beauty that we have over here. How is this going for you?
Okay, so even at that time, I was dealing with mainly foreign tourists, and we used to do cross-cultural exchange tours and only women-only tours from America. And these used to be very, highly educated people and who were only interested in culture and history and the landscape, of course, the adventure part of Pakistan. Pakistan has everything to offer.
Of course,
so we have the best product in the world, best tourism product, but it's not marketed well.
That's true. That's true.
So how did you actually get this idea that, you know, this is something which I need to do? Because even within traveling and tourism, I think it's a niche itself that, you know, highly educated people who are only focused on culture and heritage as well. So first things first, for me, I think it is very hard to find people of such sort as well. I'm sorry, but I have to say that. Because, you know, I roam around with boys a lot of times, you know, they're carefree and, you know, they do not really care what culture, what heritage. That's the kind of tourism they want to have at this age. But you being a student and being able to find people who are actually interested in culture and heritage. I think it's a different story. It's a
I think they
different
found
ballgame.
us basically.
Okay.
Yeah, because people who are, because Pakistan, to be honest, there is no, what I would say, luxury tour or the, what you would say, a beach kind of tourism, you know.
Yeah.
We don't have that. So people do understand that here's a different culture and they need to respect it, and they only come for the sake of learning our traditions and our culture.
Exactly.
Because
So history is our history is very rich, more
Absolutely.
than 5,000 years old, contemporary to Egyptian and Mesopotamia.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that is absolutely brilliant. And you know, one thing that you said is so right, that Pakistan has such a huge potential, but not the right marketing techniques, which is what I'm going to talk about with you, Ms. Ruby. You've been in Canada for so long now that you see that one of the greatest thing about Canada is its PR. I mean, every other day we see something coming up about the Prime Minister. Probably he's, you know, dressed up in a Superman costume and going to local people, talking to him, and then sharing beautiful places of Canada on his Facebook and everything. So he is basically himself promoting the country, and then every other ad, every other campaign is promoting the country. What should we, as Pakistanis, be learning from that? Because, as Humaira already said, we have such amazing potential.
Okay, and you know, I'm very sorry that I'll have to ask this question as well, and you have to answer this before you answer Shizza's question. So, Imran Khan or Justin Trudeau?
I knew this was going to come in the show.
We're lucky to have both.
Wow, I love this answer.
Exactly. So exactly, I'll go with Humaira. I think they both are awesome in their own ways.
Great leaders.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yes.
great leaders who are very inspiring to the time for now and for future generations as well. And people are engaged because of having them as leaders, I think,
Right.
in both countries. So
Exactly.
those are great role models for sure. So
Yeah, and being Pakistanis of
Yeah.
Canadian, you know, a diaspora, and we love to have both prime ministers.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
exactly, very proud. So the question that you asked, Shizza, is the PR. I think it's very important to have a very genuine, solid, safe information about Pakistan out there. I think the messaging needs to be out there. I think there's lots of lack of awareness. Usually, as you know, in the past decades or so, the media hasn't played a positive role in the sense. It has played a role in only covering what comes out of it as mostly negative out of Pakistan.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that's been the things that Canadians who have never been to Pakistan or know anything of it would know. So it's our job as people who are Pakistani Canadians as well as Pakistani government, I think, should take it on to have that positive image of Pakistan be known, which exists, but unless somebody is probing for it or asking for it, they would not know. So we need to make it known widely. So I think the positive image, and we don't need to exaggerate or falsify anything, it's just what we are. We have such wealth of richness here, we just need to expose it and make it known out there. And I think travel fairs and so on, because I live in province of Alberta, which is in the west of Canada, and it does a great job of promoting its province, even within the larger Canadian. Alberta was usually not very well known for the past few years, so I've been there for, in this province, particularly in 11 years, and I've seen a big change in answering your questions. It's, I think, an example that could be replicated, which has done a great job of having Alberta known as a brand and what it has to offer and so on. I think the same way, maybe smaller fairs, travel fairs, tourism fairs could be done in provinces of Canada, for example, and people like Humaira and I could be helping set up the logistics of that, because we know how to do. So there's lots of people who are like us who are wanting to do and take part in it. So it would be very economical, and we would love to get the message out in conjunction with anything.
And like you said, you both would actually want to be a part of this as well.
And we have already started working on it.
Yes, we see that. But just a very small question before, I'm so sorry I'm cutting you off. But you know, the incumbent government is working towards this. This was just probably last week that Zulfi Bukhari tweeted out to all the Pakistanis out there. He wanted suggestions from everyone of what a phrase should be for Pakistan's tourism campaign. Like for Malaysia, it is Malaysia Truly Asia.
And there's Incredible India, right?
I didn't want to name that because it is not incredible, but anyway.
But it's just
I get it,
because we need to learn, right?
Of course.
So can you guys Pakistan hum sab ki jaan, you know, something
Dil Dil Pakistan to hum sab tourists ko sikhate hain. We used to teach that song to all the tourists, whoever would visit Pakistan.
slogan or a tagline, Pakistan.
Or it's emerging Pakistan.
Emerging Pakistan, yes.
No, but we have already emerged. I do not want to go with that statement as well.
No, in tourism. Maybe.
Yeah, but now, Ms. Ruby, you know, since you mentioned about Alberta as well and how the province actually gained a little fame as well towards the, you know, after a decade probably, you know, because you've been there for 11 years. That's what you mentioned. So over here, I think pretty much Punjab and Sindh are the provinces which people are very aware of. But how do you think that we can actually replicate the same idea over here within Pakistan for the betterment of our provinces as well?
I like the question.
Thank you very much. I'm known for it.
I think that's a great question, because usually the provinces that might not have the population or resources to have the information out there feel that they are left behind in many ways, even though they are rich in many diverse ways and have competencies and things and maybe traditional things that might not be available anywhere else. So I think that main point would be, what is it that each province, for example, Sindh and Balochistan, are known for, and there are there's such wealth of richness in tradition, in culture, in heritage, and there's such thousands of years back of history that we can go back and highlight.
Right.
So I think there can be promos equally highlighting all the provinces of Pakistan as complementing and supplementing each other, that it's going to be a overall well-rounded phenomena.
Wow, that's great. And let me just move on to Ms. Humera over here. So Ms. Humera, I think it's a good news for everybody, because the other day, since everybody over here in Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, is in love with the Premier himself as well, Mr. Imran Khan. So I was looking at his official page, and it said that this is the best time to come down to Pakistan as well, if you want to enjoy the scenery and whatnot as well.
Yeah, I saw the picture.
So I think that it is a great opportunity, or it's a great window to open up to all the other countries as well. So and you're not just focused in Canada, so you're focused on other countries as well. Let us know about them as well, you know, the other countries where people want to come from those countries to Pakistan, and for what reasons other than culture and heritage.
So being a tour operator, since I'm a tour operator, it's my business, right? So I'll be not only from Canada, it's America, Europe. What I saw in the 90s, late 90s when I was working, it was a golden period of tourism.
Okay.
I saw all the foreigners coming, and they were like 35,000 a year every year. Right, and now the numbers had dwindled to less than 10,000.
Okay.
So if you see the official data, it would show you something close to 1 million. But they count those expatriates like us. We are visiting our family, and they count us as a tourist as well. But we are talking about purely tourists who are staying in a hotel and spending their foreign exchange, that money on the touristic products. Like the hoteliers will benefit from that, the restaurants and all that. So I came back, like I'm a real estate broker there, but I ventured back into tourism just because now I see favorable, positive image of Pakistan, favorable conditions for a tour operator. But let me tell you, this was the best season, the spring blossom in Hunza and in Skardu and in northern areas. That's the best time. But due to the flight problems, we just had some, you know, but again, there were so many groups. This was the very first time the tour operators on ground are telling me that in last 10 years, this was the very first time the March and April was fully sold.
Wow.
The hotels were fully booked.
That's a good
But
sign,
now due to
right?
cancellations, March was, the hotels were empty,
because,
the valleys were empty. But again, we need to, you know, work on these things, and the visa policies, that's again a positive sign. The e-visa and visa on arrival for many countries. So these are very, very positive sign, and I see the will there in the government. They are paying attention, they are listening. So.
Oh, that's great. So now I think that we should actually be discussing the reservations people have who actually have contacted you, but I've asked you a million questions before coming to Pakistan.
Absolutely.
So let's highlight all of those problems so that, you know, for people who are out there and whose responsibility it is to solve all of those problems, we need to put all of these questions on the table so that they can actually probably do something about it as well. So what are the most common and horrible questions people ask you before they actually have an intention to come to Pakistan?
Okay, the first issue, to be honest, there's still a travel advisory on Pakistan. Even if you go on Canada's website, you see that. So we need to lobby in a very, very strong way. Like many other countries, their lobbies are very strong internationally. So we need to, and many of our Pakistanis, Canadians of Pakistani origin, they are playing a very, very positive role. And they are into politics, they are into mainstream, they are working tirelessly, they are volunteering, just like Ruby and so many people. And I see very active role in past few years.
Wow.
So we are like getting there.
Okay.
So that is one step. And the second step from the government side, we need these policymakers to implement those policies. Because once they announce it, but if I go to our consulate, the local consulate, they don't have any instructions yet.
And they need to be permanent as well, right? I mean,
yes.
the political situation of the country should have nothing to do with it. I mean, 5 years down the lane, probably, if a new government comes in, no one should have the stake to change those, right?
So what I have also seen on ground, because I just did an extensive recce, because I was coming to meet my family and other stuff in past years, but since I started my business again, so I just wanted to do an extensive recce just to see on ground those realities. So even in the northern areas, we have secretaries, right? So every 2 years they change. By the time they get to know the local situation, the problems, and they could produce some solutions, they are transferred.
Oh, all right.
So we need to have local people.
Okay, so you know, again, I picked up one of the things that you said, that policies need to be implemented. Now, this is going to be a longer build-up, but Ms. Ruby, this is going to be a question for you. You know, Pakistan happens to have such a big heart like Canada. We take in the refugee intake is so huge. I mean, in terms of Canada, of course, they're immigrants, but in terms of Pakistan, we're just opening our borders to anyone in need, right? And because according to the latest statistics, per day, Pakistan needs 1 million to feed the Afghan refugees specifically. And half of the money comes from, of course, the United Nations Fund, but half of the other half Pakistan has to produce or manage itself. That is, of course, because of the weaker policies that we have. What, in terms of this, what can we learn from Canada?
I think Canada has, as well as Pakistan, we have a big heart. So we accept anything, anyone that is in crisis or needs help or protection, and we take them into our homes. Right. But as you're saying, there is a limit always. We don't want to be overburdening the systems, because then everybody suffers, people who might be permanent resident or citizens of each of the countries. So Canada has implemented policies in the sense that how the federal government takes care of the refugees at some levels, healthcare and so on is done by the provincial jurisdiction. So how provinces are taken, their feedback is taken into account, what's the load that they can take. Right. So it's an active open communication between the federal level of government as well as provincial, as well as to municipal, because Toronto might have a larger number of refugee intake than a smaller city in Alberta, for example. So it all needs to be, it's equal voices given to all of that, and then overall decisions are made after that. So I think that's one of the key things that could be taken into consideration, is not making high-level decisions and then just leaving them at there, and then it's always a top-down. Right. So it's not well accepted what the ground reality is. So it's always good to know what actively in the field, what is the reality, and have those voices been taken into account and then implementing. But then also reaching out to other resources, as you're saying, the United Nations and otherwise. But as we can also let the world know that how much of the this humane kind of work Pakistan government does, because I think it's sparsely known as well. It's not well known. We are not known unless we tell somebody as expats there how many refugees Pakistan has. Nobody actually has an idea on its own. So that also is something, I think, messaging that needs to be done, that Pakistan, even though has been in vulnerable state itself, it has an open heart, it has open doors for such crises that have been happening on our borders or wherever. So we have accommodated them, and we do need help in assisting them and sustaining them, because then it becomes a humanitarian cause, and other countries, I'm sure, would also be able to help through either policies or otherwise resources they might have. But it needs to be known more, and also it needs to be incorporated at all different levels of people who are implementing these things.
They have that softer image. I'll just add on to this that Canada has a very, very unique program too. That as a private citizen groups, we can sponsor refugees. So
and you actually did that as well?
I did sponsor myself, and I helped. She comes from the other side, from the government side, and from the private sector, we opened up our hearts and our homes as well.
Oh, that's wonderful, and I think there's a reason behind that as well, because both of them actually went from Pakistan too, you know, having bigger hearts. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go towards a short break, and once you guys are going to come back, I believe that this is the right time to be in Pakistan, and there are a lot of people who are coming back to Pakistan as well, but then eventually there are a lot of people who are traveling to Canada too, to settle down over there. Whether the conditions over there are very warm, and do you think that people actually need to move over there? This is the question which I'll be posing to both these ladies over here in the studios. And is it easy to settle down in a country where you haven't been before? I think that we're going to keep it basic but lively. Good morning.
Stay tuned.
Magla Hills, the heaven of Islamabad, the abode of God, a place where you can explore your soul and meet power of natural elegance of mountains. Spread over an area of 12,605 hectares, the Magla Range, the foothills of Himalayas, are youngest hills with an age of 5,000 years old. Magla Hills are home to around 600 plant species, 250 bird varieties, 38 mammals, and 13 species of reptiles. Magla Range is characterized by many valleys, scenic spots, and beautiful water streams, especially in the monsoon months. Famous for their tranquil environment and lush green natural splendor, Magla Hills are a particular source of pride, harmony, and spiritual solace. For the residents of Islamabad, many of whom make it a weekly ritual to scale the various trails to Damaneko and Pir Suhawa. Magla Hills send off its visitors with lasting trail of memories to relish in solitude and provide an escape from the relentless rhythm of life.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for everybody who just got tuned into PTU Watching World this morning. And the only reason why we got confused was that we were still in conversation with our guests, and they're amazing and they're chirpy and they're all over the place today. But Shizza, do you want to continue, or I'll continue with my question?
Right before we left,
so my question was that, you know, there are a lot of people who want to, you know, who are actually into PhDs, who've done their post-graduation as well, and there are these certain programs within Canada where you go over there for education and then you eventually get to settle down as well. So do you think that this is the right time to go to the Canada, or probably stay in Pakistan and have your own businesses or a job? Or do you think that it is simpler and easier for anybody to go and settle down over there? Do we have enough jobs over there? Do you think anybody can work, or is it just like, you know, a piece of cake?
I think it's very good time for everyone to be in Pakistan. However, it's always a good time to be in Canada as well. I love both countries.
Wow, I love this diplomacy over here.
No, but it's like living, like I have two homes, so I'm back here every 6 months for past 29 years because there is something that brings me back. Right? Yes. But the thing is, as you're saying, people are highly educated here in Pakistan, and they think it might be very easy to go and settle and get jobs.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of homework and research that needs to be done beforehand. That's from the lived experience that I have and many of my family and friends that have had.
Okay.
So it's always advisable to look up what field exactly you are going to be working in, what job opportunities are there. And even if you see the job opportunities there, that doesn't mean that necessarily you will get in the place where you are leaving your career here.
Okay. Yeah.
Because most people start at right from the scratch, and if you are a professional, for example, a PhD or a professional degree of some other sort, there are very highly regulated licensing requirements in Canada.
Okay.
So that is something to be aware of for sure. You need to get, the best way to get information on those would be sectoral associations. So engineering professionals would have sectoral information on chemical engineering, so on, foreign medical graduates for the people who have graduated outside of Canada with a medical degree and so on. So first of all, research and know which province of Canada you are wanting to go in, because each province would have a slightly different regulations as well. Some are lenient, some have lesser of regulations than others and so on. So it would be very advisable while you're still at home in Pakistan to see and research instead of rather going in the province and then moving
and then being lost,
because then it's very hard to do that.
And which province is very supportive for party lovers? You know, just asking.
I would say Alberta because
Alberta,
I love
Really?
Come to Toronto for nightlife.
Well, that's perfect. And you know, just while we were on a very short break, the discussion that we were having was the Pakistani community living abroad and how vibrant they are. I mean, you know, one of the best things that I love about them, of course, they don't know a lot of Urdu because they haven't been living in Pakistan, but either they know English or either they know Punjabi. And with, you know, a certain accent of Punjabi, which I absolutely love. So let's talk about the Pakistani community living in Canada. I mean, how are they, and is the life any different than it would be in Pakistan?
And you know, I would want to give an explanation of that too as well. So you know, this is how it works, and this is how I've observed it. So you know, for people who migrated to Canada or England or anywhere else as well, so what happens was that, you know, for example, if they moved in 1970, so you know, if you go and meet them today even, so they're listening to the same music which was released in 1970. They're wearing the same silk suits, which was actually a part of the fashion as well in 1970s. And that's the type of conversation they have too as well. So they haven't evolved according to the Pakistani, you know, I do not want to call it standards, or probably, you know, how we have actually evolved over here with the passage of age as well. But what about you? You know,
I think you had been watching Mr. Khan too much. Okay, so the thing is, like back in the 70s and 80s, there was a trend, or 60s, that people used to go for education and come back and get back here, and very few people settled there. And whoever settles there, when you are in a minority, you're a smaller group, you know, and the technology was not that advanced, so ideas didn't travel that far. You know, if the fashion here changes, they don't know, right? And they kind of, you know, stayed within that comfort zone. So, but now with the advancement of technology, you know, Maria B or Sana Safinas or whatever, I'm not advertising for them, but whatever brand is here and the fashion, it travels there right away.
Oh, it does?
Yes. And secondly, and now these days, like I still advocate for student visas for Pakistanis, because we have very, very little percentage that gets the visa as compared to many other nationalities. So we are advocating for that as well.
Can you get me one for PhD?
Of course. Okay, there are 1,000 applications that are approved at Seneca and Brock University, but they are not getting the visa. So that is what we are working on, and they are post-grad degrees, mostly for masters and PhDs. Anyway, so I advocate for that because I believe that people who travel to any other country for education, they learn the skill, they get the international exposure, and some of them, even if they stay there, they're very productive expatriate, and if they decide to come back, they bring that knowledge, wealth of knowledge back. You know, so
well, that's great. And you know, there's one more thing, ladies and gentlemen, and since me and Miss Ruby happen to be friends on Facebook, so I kind of catch up on her feed as well. So no, usually she's actually posting pictures, I'm out here, you know, I'm doing this and whatnot. So I think within a year's time, she's only posted one picture with her husband. And I actually want to know the reason of that too as well. I mean, how come you've actually posted a picture with your husband, you know, for somebody being with goats, being with people. And, you know, there was this fundraiser for them as well, you know, recently in Canada.
Question bombs.
And our former Chief Justice, ex-Chief Justice actually went over there too as well. And Mr. Waqas was there. He happens to be a great friend as well. So what happened at the fundraiser, first of all? How many Pakistani-born Canadians were there and how much did they contribute? I think this is something which we need to share with people.
So as you mentioned, I'm part of everything and anything I can be for community reasons and so on. So
not leaving behind your husband.
No,
that's good.
He's an introvert, so I have to even pull him out for that one picture. But just to say he is there.
Yeah.
So the thing with the fundraiser with the former Chief Justice was excellent. So he came out with Senator Faisal Javed as well as Waqas and others. We were doing it as I'm Pakistan Worldwide Movement movement. So it was actually I'm Pakistan Worldwide Movement is a call out that was by the Pakistani government to have expats help out in the dam fundraising.
All right.
So it's just a volunteer organization that started out of Ottawa, and then we have all jumped in and said we would like to help in any way and we can. So there were 6 fundraising events in Canada, in Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver. So 2 happened to be in the province that I'm in. So I took the lead for Alberta, and so those 2 were logistically my responsibility, along with a huge, very dedicated team of volunteers. So with in Edmonton, we had a turnout of close to 950 people that came. So we had a huge banquet hall that was full, and we had requests for more people to come. So the beauty of the thing was that not only expats, the Pakistanis were there, but there were friends who are from other communities. So Sikh Canadians, Canadians who are born and raised, Caucasians who are born and raised in Canada. So when they saw what the need is for, that Pakistan would be running into a crisis for addressing Pakistani water and so on, we would need to address. So they all jumped in. So we had huge success and all, and we raised, I think, close to, I don't have the official numbers, but over 2 million Canadian dollars within these 6 cities.
That's such a success, mashallah, and so proud, you know, for you being the head of that. But just one question. This is probably on a lighter note, but I really do need an answer from you. So I feel like we did discuss this before the show as well, but since we are talking about things that we can learn from Canada, this was just last week again, probably, I watched a video of, you know, Justin Trudeau sneaking in a chocolate bar in the parliament. And of course, the opposition leader, he sort of, you know, called him out that you're not allowed to eat anything in the parliament. And he handled it in such a light way. There was no chaos, unlike what happens in Pakistani parliament. So first of all, what can the leaders learn from Canada?
I think that the main key messaging there is that despite the political differences or ideologies that you might have, the civility needs to prevail.
Absolutely.
So the ethics is there. People have respect on mutual level as persons, and then you can agree to disagree on political things. And there are fierce debates, as you might see. There is a question period channel, CPAC in Canada, which shows you all the goings on in every day for the parliament, and you see there are some heated arguments, but in a very professional way where they are matter of fact, they are fact-based, there is no personal attack. Sometimes in political campaigns, as is in other countries, there are sometimes mudslinging advertising, which is frowned upon. So it's not something encouraged. It's not something that's promoted. So what I would say is the ethics within and the decorum that needs to be kept to have, because these are people who are elected officials. So we need to have a image presented that's a role model for others.
Absolutely.
And I think everybody actually needs to learn from one person, one lady, ladies and gentlemen, because she's won all the hearts all over the world as well, and that is the Premier of New Zealand as well. I mean, the way she's handled every situation and how heart-struck she was after that incident, I think everybody needs to back up for their, you know, people as well. This is a wonderful thing to do. But before, you know, wrapping up, there's one common problem which I get to hear a lot from families who've actually moved to Canada or UK or Australia or anywhere else in the world, and that is that when their daughters grow older as well, they want to get them married over here in Pakistan. Now, first things first, I'm sorry that this is my opinion.
No, okay, let's
obviously, we have to get married in Muslims or Ahle Kitab as well. This is one other thing. But why do parents, you know, when you nurture them, you make them grow, you spend on their education in a foreign country, and then you want them to live in a country where they have never ever been? Please do not do this to your daughters. It is very heart-wrenching for me to get to know where, you know, for everybody, you know, there's a feel of home. So, you know, for all of those daughters who've been born over there, their home is Canada, you know, or UK or anywhere else, and it gets difficult for them to settle down anywhere else in the world. Why do you think people do this, and do you think that we can have a solution for that?
Okay, I think the mindset is changing. This was pretty much a thing of the past. There might be here and there a few cases, but most of the time now I see that people prefer to get their kids married off to people living in that country.
Exactly.
Okay.
So like I live in Toronto, and like my kids are teenagers, but I see other like parents, they prefer people over there because they know them, and it's easier to have a match out of that.
So there is a change now.
The trend is changing. It's changing big time. Yeah.
So anything you want to say?
I want to say it is changing as you're saying, but there is still a very invisible way of having it been prevailing. So there are some forced marriages, as they are called in Canadian law, and Canadian government also takes notice of this. So as parents, I have 3 daughters who are, 2 of them are adults now. So exactly as Shahzad was saying, you want the best for your child. You want them to be happy, and compatibility is the right thing. So having the core principles, I think, in having the match that you're finding for your son or daughter is important. However, let them choose the partner that would be best for them to have a happy married life afterwards. So be it here or there, if they have been back here or not. But I think forcing anything upon anyone is not right, and that's what as parents we should take into.
These are the kind of parents we need today as well. Well, thank you very much, Amara. Thank you very much, Ruby, for taking our time and being on the show as well. It was wonderful to have you guys. It was wonderful to listen to all the stories from all the way from Canada early in the morning. What about you?
We love the energy. And you know, just Shahzad and I were discussing before the show that we've already had our coffees, but we don't feel so woken up today for some reason we don't know. But these ladies were so energetic. You actually brought the energy quotient to the show. Thank you so much for doing that. So if there's anything you need to write to us, please write on our Facebook page. With the
Which is with the name of World This Morning. It's going to be somewhere, here, yes.
On Twitter.
World This Morning without a G.
Daily Motion on YouTube.
World This Morning.
And the repeat is going to be
5 past 11 p.m. tonight. Till the next time, 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Thank you very much.